Hey, coming up on today's edition of The Time Blueprint, Frank Oliver and I will be talking about the beauty of simplicity when planning for retirement. How can we simplify the process? What benefits do we get out of that? We're going to dive into it all on today's show. Let's get to it. Welcome to The Time Blueprint with Frank Oliver of Oliver Asset Management. Here we break down taxes, income, money, and estate planning, giving you the tools to make informed financial decisions and aim for better retirement outcomes. Your host is financial advisor Frank Oliver, the president and founder of Oliver Asset Management. He's the author of Your Time Is Now, sharing the essentials you need to know to craft a comprehensive and customized retirement plan. Dive in with us as we offer clear strategies and straightforward advice, all designed to empower you in your financial journey. Welcome to The Time Blueprint. Welcome to another episode of The Time Blueprint. Walter here with Frank. And Frank, how is life treating you?
Life is good. Life is good. Few trips recently. So went to Key West, did a little deep sea fishing out there.
What'd you catch?
We caught some grouper,
Nice.
caught some mahi.
Grouper's fun to catch.
Grouper is
things are massive.
they're challenging.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so hard to catch. They're awesome. And honestly, just some of the best eating in the world.
Yeah, grouper's great.
If you put grouper next to a ribeye, I think I'd have a tough decision there. I'd probably just have
I
to
can't
do
agree
both.
with you there, but
Right.
ribeye's going to win every time.
Right.
But,
Well, I like a little surf and turf, you know. So.
That's true. Let's just make it surf and turf. I
Right,
like your
exactly.
idea.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sounds good. Got some yellow fin, I think it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're getting closer to a competition. I love some yellowfin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So did a little sushi, ate fish on the boat every night. So that was
That's
good.
pretty cool.
Nice little 3-day or so. Yeah,
Nice.
it's
That's good.
Yeah.
And here in Colorado, where obviously, Frank, the business is located and we live, it's warming up. Snow's
nice.
melting a little bit in some places.
Got my boat out of storage yesterday.
Very nice.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's sitting in the parking lot. So yesterday we spent
Nice.
4 hours waxing one side of it. So.
Okay. You'll be in the water soon enough.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hopefully this weekend. We'll see.
There you go.
Yeah. Got
All
to
right.
get it waxed.
Go to Horsetooth Reservoir and look out on the water. You'll probably
That's right.
spot
Yeah,
Frank
come
down
say hi.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any weekend, you're pretty much there, right?
Every weekend almost, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, let's talk about simplicity.
Let's do it.
From boat ownership, you probably know the power of simplicity and trying to maintain and take care of that. So maybe there's some parallels here. We're going to talk about why in the financial world is it not simpler? And I think the question I always have, Frank, is do some people intentionally, there's motivation to make things more complicated than they need to be, whether it's an advisor or just like a financial media person. You can sound smarter if everybody else is feeling complicated by something and you sound like the expert.
Yeah. Yeah, that brings up a good point. And I think our industry is complex, but I don't think it needs to come across that way to the client, right?
Okay. Flying a plane is complex, but it
flying
doesn't
a plane
have to
is
be
very
like that for a
complex.
passenger.
Well,
right?
and I've had a lot of CFIs, which is a certified flight instructor, that have obviously trained me to fly a plane. And some of them are very simplistic in their explanation. Some of them want me to do calculus in the air as I'm trying to land the plane.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
there's just two different styles when you're coaching somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that brings up a good point. So my book, my financial planning process, the podcast, everything we do, time. So I've taken a very complex matter, and hopefully taken the complexity out of it to create time, taxes, income, money, and estates.
4 things.
Yeah, that's all you need to think about, right? So what do I do with my taxes, right? Do I have the tax bucket set up? Is everything tax deferred? Should I have some Roth IRA in there? Do I have those tax buckets in place? How am I going to produce income in retirement?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Let's think about it. So let's start with taxes. Then let's say, how are we going to produce income in retirement, right? And then once we determine how much income I need in retirement, then we go to step 3. How do I invest my money? I need some money safe. I need some money at risk. Safe money for income, risky money for the future, right?
Yeah.
So long-term growth, you take on a little more risk. Short-term income, you put your money somewhere safer. And we could talk about 500 different options, but if you're explaining it to somebody, trying to make it understandable for them because they don't get confused.
Yeah.
First step's taxes, second step's income, third is money. Where do I invest my money once I have the first 2 figured out? And then the third really kind of falls in line. It's estate planning. The one that we want to think about the least is, when something happens to us, when we pass away. But then we talk about estate planning, and that's a 4th step, But I do think that people sometimes I think myself included, we're a little embarrassed to ask the questions because we should know this, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Why? Why do people feel so overwhelmed? And it doesn't have to be, we don't even have to talk about the whole world. Just people that come in to meet with you. What are they overwhelmed by, or what's the why behind that overwhelmed feeling?
It took me 10 years to understand how to build a plan that was simplistic for people. I mean, we've built plans for over 20 years, but to break it down into time, right?
Time got developed over time.
Time did get developed over time because I could see the confusion of people coming in. And honestly, I don't think they want us to know that they don't understand. But there's nothing wrong with not understanding this, right?
Yes.
We all have our own wheelhouse that we live in, right?
You're talking about the no dumb questions phenomenon.
There are no dumb questions.
When we're kids, we don't want to raise our hand in class because we don't want to be embarrassed by asking something.
Right.
But that's how we learn, right?
Yeah, I have a client that builds satellites for Ball Aerospace, and I'll ask him something about investments. How do you want me to invest your money? He's like, Frank, I built satellites, dude. He's like, this is your jam. And he's a real cool guy. That's how he talks to me. He's like, I just do what you do. This is what you do. I stay in my lane, you stay in your lanes. And people should understand that you don't have to know everything about everything, Right. So don't be embarrassed. It's
just like when you go to a party and you meet that guy, or you meet someone who works with rockets or astronomy or something. You're like, wow, there's no way I'm going to possibly grasp everything that you know.
Right.
But teach me a few things, give me a grasp of something interesting. And that's kind of what you're trying to do in your meetings, is just get people more comfortable with the process.
Yeah. Just break it down into the 4 steps. We'll start with that and keep it real super simple. So, absolutely.
Well, what are some of the first steps most people need to take to simplify their retirement plan? I understand you're going to take them through this simplified process, but maybe just some ideas of what end up being the first steps you take with people.
Yeah. Build a plan.
Okay.
Put
it on paper.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, well, we put ours on computer day.
Okay. Well, paper with quotes.
You're pretty young. I'm surprised you even write anything on paper, right? Yeah.
I have little sticky pads, but that's about it.
Yeah. Just build a plan. I mean, my dad used to have 14 maps in his car when we take a trip to go to Florida.
I remember the old atlases.
My mom's sitting there like this, trying to, go coach my dad as he's screaming at her, trying to, you took me down the wrong road. But we spend more time trying to plan a road trip than we do for our retirement. But again, I think that falls back to, we can all figure out where I-25 is.
Yeah.
We don't understand taxes, income, money, and estate planning. So I think the first thing you need to do is just build a plan. Let us know when you're going to retire. What's your retirement date? Now are my assets going to last as long as I am? What if I retire too soon? Or can I retire sooner, right? Okay. So start with your retirement date, right? And then once we know when you're going to retire, then let's look at your cash flow. Build a budget, right? So now we have a cash flow analysis coming in. Once we know when you retire, we know your budget, right? When are we going to elect Social Security? Do you have a pension? How do we want to elect that? So now we're starting to build a second layer of cash flow. We have outgo and we have inflow. So now we could build that. Now, if we know in retirement, do you have positive cash flow or negative cash flow? Honestly, most people have negative cash flow because Social Security doesn't fully, cover their budget, cover their expenses. That's totally okay. If you have $1 million sitting over here in the asset column, you can afford to spend some of that. Okay. It's okay. But how much of that do you need to spend combined with Social Security to pay your expenses, to make your retirement happy and comfortable and enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
So now, once we have that, then the money part starts. Okay. All right, so if you need $3,000 a month combined with Social Security from this $1 million, you need $36,000 a year. Now we take that money. This is your income portion. So now we have your income bucket built, right? Now the rest of it, I think we can just go and do something a little bit different with the growth. But first is going to be, when am I going to retire? What are my assets? What's my budget? How much is my Social Security? And then start to put all that together. And it really simplifies it when you see it on the screen and you kind of see these outputs and the data output coming out. And it really makes people feel comfortable. I can retire. Or you know what? I can't, and that's okay. I'm glad I know now, because I could definitely work another 3 or 4 years. I'm cool with that, but I'm glad that I know that before I make a bad decision.
Yeah. It sounds to me like maybe some people, just from conversations I've had with folks who are approaching retirement and kind of seeing how they approach things initially before they start the planning process, it's interesting because you're talking about very simple questions to tackle first. Like, okay, when do you want to retire?
Right.
But a lot of people don't start there. They start at those more complex questions of, okay, I don't know the right way to take my spousal benefit, and how do I take distributions from a 401k, and should I get an annuity, and that's where they get overwhelmed by all those questions, and you're just like, well, forget all that for a minute.
Yeah.
When do you want to do this? And then we'll start to let the plan come into place.
We talk about this at our office all the time when we talk about processes and how we, build stuff for the clients. And when I go flying, we actually had this in our sales meeting this morning. No matter how basic or rudimentary it is, every pilot has a checklist. And the checklist is something as simple as make sure your parking brake is set.
Okay.
Put the key on the dash.
Yeah.
So you don't leave the key in the ignition and automatically or accidentally hit it. So the most basic rudimentary tasks, make sure your rope is untied on your wing. And so even flying, you start off with a basic, to make sure, and then work your way into the more complex. So
but that's a life or death situation.
It is. Yeah.
So you want to follow a very regimented process.
That's right.
But hey, we're talking about your life savings. It's not life or death, but it's life.
It's serious.
It's serious. You've put a lot of effort and time into
40
it.
years to build this. Yeah.
Let's regiment it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's put that time and attention to it.
Yep,
I like that.
Yep.
Well, very good. So before I tell people how to get in touch with you, Frank, let's simplify the planning process. So you talked about time, what the planning process is like, but set expectations for me. If I'm watching today's video or listening to the podcast version, I'm like, all right, I need to get my finances in order. I need to figure out this whole retirement planning thing. I don't know when I can retire. That very first question. That's a great reason why people come in to meet with you for the first time. But take me through. I go to oliverassetmanagement.com. I click the link in the description of the show today, shameless plug, and then I go book an appointment with you.
Yes.
Just take us through under the hood. Like, what happens?
Well, you come into the office and we serve you cookies.
Hey, all right, I'm sold.
You can stop
You're
there. You're my client right now,
I got cookies.
Yes,
We're
homemade
done.
cookies. Yeah, a cup of coffee, water, soda, whatever you want. We go back into the conference room, super comfortable setting, and we'll just have a get to know you meeting. It's more of an interview for the client or more of a time for the client to interview us or prospective client as much as it is for us to interview them. And just see if we're a good fit, ask us any questions that they have. We want to make sure that we meet their objectives, right?
Yeah, there's a working relationship.
Absolutely.
You need to approve of the client, and they need to
approve of us as well. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we're going to ask them some basic questions. Where your assets placed? Is it tax deferred? Is it tax free? Is it taxable? What's your Social Security benefits? When are you going to retire? So we'll start to glean a little bit of a picture and an outlook for them at that point.
Is most of that from the hip, or do they need to come in with statements and things like that figured out?
No, the first meeting's kind of from the hip. We do ask them to bring some information if they would like to bring that in. It's kind of a high-level meeting on the first one.
Okay.
And then
even if somebody doesn't have time to just drill into all of that yet, and they just want to get to know you first and see if this is a good fit.
We want to keep it nice and gentle. Okay. Yeah, just nice and friendly. And then we'll take them up and show them. So we got a big smart board in the conference room, and we'll open up the software with a sample plan on there, and just show them, hey, this is how we quantify these answers. If you're gonna, if you want to retire now, if you're gonna retire in 5 years, what that objective is, how much do you have in assets, what have you saved, how long is it gonna last, So we'll have everybody build a budget for us, and we'll just kind of take them down retirement lane, if you will, and just show them all the questions that are flipping through your mind that you just can't, these puzzle pieces that are driving you crazy.
Yeah.
We'll just show you how these puzzle pieces will all come together as soon as we have that plan built. And now, if we can determine that you can retire now, then we'll show you. And, this data and this plan will show you that you can retire now. And if you can't retire now, it's really good that you find out now. And a lot of people that come in say, I'm fine if I work another 5 years. I really like what I do, but it would be good for me to know if something changed. Can I retire today or in a year or two, or do I really need to work another 5 years? And how's Social Security going to impact that? And how much am I going to owe in taxes in retirement? And so am I going to be able to travel?
The first plan is not always the last plan. It can, here's our initial plan, but if these strings get pulled, we can readjust to this. So.
Yeah. So then once we just kind of have a 30,000 foot overview with them, if they want to take the next step forward, then we'll have them fill out a digital questionnaire that we send them online. We'll send them a digital budget. So they fill out the data points on the digital questionnaire, comes right back across our computer. We send them a digital expense plan, comes right back across on their personal financial plan. And then we start to input all that data, build a couple different scenarios showing them their retirement outcome. If they retire today, in 2 years, in 3 years, when do we elect Social Security? How do we build the plan? Where should their funds be invested? When they come back in, it really, you could just almost see a load come off their shoulders when they actually finally have some clarity and some answers in their plan. So,
Very cool. Yeah. Last question for you about the planning process. Just how long does it take from I'm going online to book an appointment with you to I'm at the end of the process and I've got a plan that I feel good about and I'm ready for retirement?
Yeah. It's a 3-step process. So the first process is just real gentle. We're just going to talk.
High-level meeting.
Yeah, get to know us. And if you like our cookies and our coffee and, like the team at Oliver Asset Management, the time process that we're putting together, then we'll take it a step further. And that's when they'll fill out the questionnaire and do the expense plan. And then when they come back for that second meeting, we'll just go over some high-level recommendations. I think I think these investments make good sense for you. We'll go over a couple different Social Security strategies when you can retire. Again, still fairly high level at that point. If they like what they see at that point, if the plan's coming together, it's making sense. We're adding some clarity to their situation. Then we'll come up, for the third meeting with an investment strategy for them, an income strategy for them, and a definite, Social Security Roth conversion strategy for them. And then at that point,
implementation at that point.
And then we'll slowly implement that little by little if they become clients, because it's a lot to undertake in one session.
So, it's not like you just in one day everything has changed, but there'll be a process that begins.
Exactly. Very
cool.
Yep, awesome.
Well, thanks for the details on that, Frank. If you think you're at the point in your financial life, you're getting close to retirement, you start needing more clarity around some of these big questions. That could be for some people a year away. For others, it's 5 to 10 years away from retirement.
The red zone.
If you want to start getting answers to those big retirement questions, though, it's time for a visit and to talk with Frank about how to improve all of those things in your financial life. And you can do that by going to oliverassetmanagement.com, schedule a free strategy session there. That'll be linked in the description of today's show. You can also call 720-897-TIME, and that's also in the description of the show. So check it out there. Coming up, we're going to get to know Frank a little bit better, and we've got a mailbag question from one of our viewers, so stay tuned for that.
Listen, thank you.
Well, Frank, on the last episode, we asked you who had the biggest impact on your career choice. We're going to kind of flip a career question around in a little bit different way today. What job would you least want to have? Like just something you'd run away from, don't think you'd be good at, whatever that question speaks to you.
So what are one of the 2 career choices that all parents want their children to make?
Doctor.
That's one. The other would be lawyer, but but it would be a doctor. I don't. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. I don't think I'd want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Is
it the hours or the pressure?
I think it's the hours. I think it's the insurance billing, other schooling too. But the insurance billing and what you have to go through with insurance today and Medicare. And I have a couple friends that are physicians, and we have a lot of deep talks about that. And that the glamour of it, maybe, I don't know. It's a good profession. We all need doctors, but I just don't think I'm cut out for that.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about the beauty of simplicity, right? And I'm sure that things are not simple anymore for folks in that doctoral industry.
So bless their heart. We definitely need them.
Yeah.
They got their work cut out. So,
but the lawyer, you would pick lawyer over.
I do like, I think I would definitely like to be a lawyer.
Okay. You could take that.
I like a little debating.
Yeah. Exactly. I could see you in the courtroom. Right. Yeah, that'd be great.
Exactly.
I love it. All right, well, there you go. That's getting to know Frank better. Now we need to get to know our viewer. We've got a really good viewer question from Joseph coming up next. Okay, Frank, so Joseph says, I have an old 401k from a prior job that I'm obviously not contributing to anymore since I work somewhere else. I was going to roll it over, but now it's done really well this year. So should I continue with the rollover or hold off since this old 401k is doing so well?
Yeah, we actually get that question quite a bit. And I think people get confused on a 401k being a particular type of investment strategy and an IRA being a particular type of investment strategy, where a 401k is basically just an IRS tax code.
Really, we're talking like shells, right?
That's exactly what it is.
It's the stuff inside that counts.
You're right. Yeah, it's the engine that makes that 401k hum, and you can have that same engine in an IRA. Okay. So a lot of times folks, will have a good run in a 401k. Maybe they have, the Vanguard 500, which is the S&P 500 in there. Okay. And it's, like last year, S&P 500 had a fantastic run. It was a magnificent 7 that carried the S&P. So, but you can have that same investment profile inside of an IRA. So a 401k is not an investment strategy. It's just a tax code is what it is. It's a company plan is what it is. And I think with an IRA, the models, the 401k world is not built to be a personalized plan for you. Okay. It's built to teach you to contribute for your retirement. The plan will have, folks from Fidelity or Vanguard come into the office and coach you on these investments. 401k plans quite honestly, are very limited in their scope. And they do that by design. They want to keep them simple. We're talking a lot about simplifying today, right?
Sure.
So they want to keep them simple so you don't get confused on 300 different investment recommendations. So they're going to use some
10
target
choices. Pick one.
you're going to have a large, a mid, a small, maybe in emerging markets, you're going to have some target date funds in there.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. But you definitely have much more sophistication outside of a 401k most of the time. So
Interesting.
If you have any questions for us, Joseph, we'd love to help you.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question for Joseph.
Okay.
So, and maybe he's concerned about this too. If you want to roll out of that 401k to an IRA, let's say, but you're worried, like, doesn't that take a while? What happens? I'm out of the market, right? That money's not invested while it's rolling over. What if the market goes way up while I'm out and now I'm buying in at a higher? Is that a legitimate concern, or how do you manage that?
It could be, but I would think that in the scope of investing for 20 or 30 years, that if your funds were out of the market for 2 or 3 days, hopefully that wouldn't have a big impact. But there's very few ways around that. As long, and we should bring up as well, as long as you're post 59 and a half, you can do what's known as an in-service distribution. And that's not a problem. And if you leave a little bit of money in the 401k, you'll still get the company match, but open up the options by putting it into an IRA. But the funds will be out of the market for a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're talking a few days. That was my final follow-up.
It's not
question.
a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a few days.
a couple days to make that transition.
That could be good,
Yeah.
as
if
well
things
as
like dropped a lot right after you did it,
Right,
it would be great. And if
exactly.
they went up, well, then.
Yeah. In the scope of investing for 20, 30, 40 years, it really
That's the key.
it should be a blip on the radar.
We're missing the forest through the trees if we're letting that concern keep us from doing the right thing.
Trying to time the markets it never works. So
just close your eyes and do it.
Well, you have to sometimes, right? You have to. Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And a great question, Joseph. And if you have questions about your 401k or your IRA, how does this all fit into my financial plan? Those are the kinds of questions that people often start their planning process off with. So again, the way to get in touch with Frank Oliver is to pick up the phone, give him a call at 720-897-TIME, or you can go online to oliverassetmanagement.com. Book that free strategy session online today. And you're going to be all set with a great visit with the team at Oliver Asset Management. Get those cookies.
That's right. The cookies are the best.
Come on in.
Yes.
Thanks, Frank. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Walter.
We'll see you next time on the
Thanks,
Time
guys.
Blueprint.
Yeah.
Advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Creative One Wealth, LLC, and Oliver Asset Management are unaffiliated entities. Licensed insurance professional. Respond and learn how financial products, including life insurance and annuities, can be used in various planning strategies for retirement. The information contained herein is based on our understanding of current tax law. The tax and legislative information may be subject to change and different interpretations. We recommend that you seek professional tax advice for applicability to your personal situation.